Hi there, folks. This is Jesse Bryant on September 11th, the anniversary, no less. And this is a Tuesday for me. I'm in between classes, so I'm getting some reading done. And I just thought I would talk a little bit about Gary Johnson again because I'm nearly done with his book. I've been reading another book kind of in between chapters from this one. One of my friends gave me a book, and she suggested it to me for some other issues I was interested in, so I'm working on that one too. But since I'm going to be volunteering at the state fair for Governor Johnson at the Libertarian Party booth, I figured I'd better read through his book and know exactly what makes the man. So this section here, this is in a chapter about schools and education and his experience as a governor. This section's called Bringing a Business Mindset to Policy. My views are in the minority for many key policy issues, but I strongly believe in certain principles and hold to my beliefs. Business is about best product, best service, lowest price. If you can combine all three of those elements, then you're successful, period. We're spending a lot of money on education, but I don't think it's an issue of money. As Americans, we spend more and more money on a product that, by all objective measurements, including test scores and dropout rates, etc., is doing a little bit worse each year. Is there any other aspect of our lives where we're allowing this gradual failure to happen? I don't think so. Well, I think Governor Johnson is right in anything dictated by, free market or free choice. But I would say usually just about everything that the government does is kind of slowly sinking in its quality, and we have to tolerate that generally. Maybe not happily, but, people just not showing a lot of backbone when it comes to standing up to the government. Moving on, though, with Governor Johnson. The public education system in the United States needs major reform. In order to improve schools, we have to measure and grade schools. And the purpose here isn't to denounce the schools, but to say, all right, here's where we're at. What do we need to do to get better next year? We need to compare one school to another when it comes to test scores in the various categories. We also need to be able to look at one school from one year to the next and have the results put out in a format that is easy to read and easy to understand. A solid education makes a big difference when it comes to jobs, when it comes to health, and when it comes to your own personal well-being. You're not going to get ahead unless you're as well educated as you possibly can be. I see vouchers as a way of bringing those three business elements into education. Best product, best service, lowest price. Moving on into the next section, vouchers have momentum. The momentum is clearly in the direction of people saying, you know what, we've got to give vouchers a chance. There's something to this. This makes sense. It has become a campaign issue because people recognize it's a no-lose proposition. The voucher is redeemable at public schools, so what is there to lose, other than some really bad schools that won't be in existence any longer? And of course, an ordinary person like me would say, well, what's wrong with that? I mean, obviously, if a roofing company cheats me and does a really bad job of fixing my roof, and I've got leaks, and I keep calling them every year to repair it, and they keep making it worse and worse, and the leaks keep getting bigger and bigger. Well, I'm not going to give them my business anymore, and I'd be surprised if anybody else did, for that matter. It should be natural that they're going to go out of business, and that's just how the free market works, I believe. So, but somehow with schools and teachers, that's just not how it works. They get to dodge that free market principle somehow. They get to pretentiously act as if they're entitled to our money, regardless of how poorly they perform. In fact, they think that poor performance guarantees them even more of our money so that they can do better next time. Yeah, absolutely fallacious proposition, and it would never work in any free market scenario. And Governor Johnson moves on to say, I've got news for anybody who criticizes vouchers as being unconstitutional or says that government can't be spending money on religious institutions. In essence, we have a voucher system for childcare. For those mothers who are on welfare, we give them what in essence is a voucher which allows them to choose where to send their children to childcare, and in many cases that childcare is religious. That's a state-funded program. We don't call it a voucher, but we might as well. Oh yeah, here we go again. Yeah. So the advocates of big government spending in education and really in every other sector in life. Oh, right. We come up with a program to try and fix the system since they don't want to give it up at all by any means necessary. They want to keep public education alive. So they dare to call what we're doing unconstitutional. That's right. They dare to point the finger of unconstitutionality. Wow. That's rich. That's just the nerve of these people. I love it. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that government being involved in education anyway in the first place is unconstitutional. The founders didn't mention that it was the government's responsibility. They didn't put it anywhere in the Bill of Rights that you have a right to be educated via the state. So that whole argument, I don't know where they came up with that. It just seems like a very, very weak, intellectually weak excuse. But Governor Johnson said something else interesting here. One of the huge criticisms of vouchers is that they're going to take money away from public education. Under my proposal, and I'll use this as the extreme example, if every child in Santa Fe were to take their school voucher and opt out of Santa Fe public schools, the Santa Fe public schools would be left with about 35% of their budget and no students. It's just not going to happen, but it illustrates the point that as money for vouchers flows from the public schools, we actually raise the amount of money available for each student remaining in the public schools. That's because the public schools get a $6,000 per student, and we're granting $4,000 vouchers to those who choose outside the public school system. Yeah, well, once again, they're just trying to protect their racket. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. They're just trying to milk as much money as possible. They don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to give people any right to choose because they know that they're providing an inferior service, and if they don't have a government-enforced monopoly, then they're going to lose their business. They know that, and they're shameless about it, so they just, try to charge every argument with emotions. They try to just argue and use the kids as hostages, basically use the kids as leverage to take advantage of us. That's the real cowardice of all these teacher unions and all of this big education spending talk. It's just absolutely shameful. But continuing on, Governor Johnson has one last observation on this topic. He says, one last observation, some critics of school vouchers argue that they're racially and culturally biased because some groups of people lack a tradition of valuing education. I think this argument is false. When I was governor, the Native Americans in New Mexico were struggling with serious challenges in terms of public health, economic uncertainty, and poor educational results. If any group could make legitimate claims about cultural bias in programs like school vouchers, it would be the tribes. But the feedback I got from Native Americans on providing school alternatives was overwhelmingly positive. They were open to vouchers and anything else that would shake up the education status quo because they saw their schools as failed. Period. To people in that position, choice is really important. Well, thank you for saying it, Governor, because absolutely, that's just common sense. Whoever would say that freedom of choice is racially biased, I think that person who would suggest that must be incredibly racist themselves in order to even think that at all. And it just shows the mentality of the typical left-wing Democrat, big spenders, The real racists are the ones who think that they can keep everybody else in check and control everything. Those are the people that do the most damage to minorities, keep them stuck in whatever situation they can put them in. Don't give them a choice. Don't give them an opportunity to excel. That's the real racism going on right now in America, perpetrated by the government and by the Democrats and leftists in particular. And he just said it right there. He just said it. Look, they're trapped in schools that are not efficient and not effective and are not leading them to success. They want to go somewhere else, but the public schools, of course, don't want to allow it. That right there, that's just forced stagnation, basically. So, once again, freedom of education is the best policy and the only policy, I believe, that will lead us out of economic doldrums. I think that it's the best possible way for us to improve our future is by allowing the people to decide how their children should be educated and how to best actualize their child's potential. Because they're the ones who should know, really. The parents are the ones who know, and the parents are the ones who care. They should be the ones behind the wheel here, not somebody who has a conflict of interest who's being paid. They should not be the ones making the decision here. So, me personally, I've argued without much success that public education needs to be handled differently. I never discussed a voucher system. I've heard of it before, but now, thanks to Governor Johnson, I think I understand it a lot better. Personally, I don't think that the state should be involved at all. I think it should all be community level. But, you know, this program actually does make sense. And when it comes to education, really, you'll just never be able to uproot all of the traditions and practices ingrained in our society today. You'll never convince people that they can do it better, even though it's obvious. They'll never realize it because they've gotten too used to the process. They've gotten too accustomed to just giving their kids up to someone else for 8 hours a day. So, that's fine. But at least if we're going to take people's money and force it into public education, at the very minimum, at the very least, we should give people a choice as to which schools they're going to send their kids to. It's their money anyway. If it were me, I'd give a voucher for the full amount that's spent on each student. But since you would never defeat the teachers' unions that way, I guess we could just do it Governor Johnson's way and give them a certain portion for the voucher each year. And that would probably work just fine. So, I think I'll suggest it from now on. I think maybe I'll make this one of my own platform issues. So, good work, Governor. And everybody else, it's been a pleasure. You all take care of yourselves.